Hello adventurers and welcome back to the Legend of Kelamentura recap series. This time we are recapping session 17. Off to work we go. Because I couldn't think of any puns or anything better than that. But the Dungeon Master has to have a day off eventually. Jokes, what is a day off for Dungeon Masters? Please, other DMs out there who are doing homebrew campaigns, please tell me I'm not the only one who just every day there is something going on. There's some prep, there's work going on. There's no such thing as a day off. Oh, bloody hell. Anywho, so we kicked off picking up after the big feast, the welcoming feast of the giants into the town. Party woke up the next day, thick heads, you know, feeling a bit sorry for themselves. Although Ariadne was the worst of the bunch, the player for Ariadne and Titus couldn't join us last night at time of recording. Ariadne, she was stuck in work, and so was Titus, unfortunately. So hopefully they'll get to us next time. That will be very nice if they could join us next time for reasons you'll see later on. But anywho, so they're kind of in the background for the whole section. So basically, Ariadne is violently hungover, and Titus is away off wandering somewhere. Then they all reconvene later. But party gets up, Waite gets up breakfast, gets ready for the day. Bit of a split. Lo just kind of hangs around in the tavern with Ariadne and whatever, waiting for Titus to come back. Enya and Bjorn first. Bjorn kind of gets up and heads off in search of a blacksmith. And there's two blacksmiths in town. One is attached to like a general supply store called the Broadbarn, and that's just like the most like basic ironwork, like horseshoes, nails, that's very basic stuff. Then there's another one called the Open Forge. It was ran by a family of dwarves called the Fire Forges. So Bjorn comes up to them, and he goes in and buys like a sort of set, like a longsword and shield, like a matching set. I guess these two very, very beautifully made and very well balanced mundane longsword, and a small heater shield. Like if you ask a kid to draw a shield, if they don't draw a circle, the little strangly one, basically that. So he picks up those and then commissions a set of very finely made scales to be made. The idea being that the sword and the shield is going to be a tribute for Barad-dûr. He's going to leave in the temple, and the scales will be a tribute left to Arakael, the god of justice. So Bjorn goes, purchases those, has a bit of a conversation, and turns out the sword and shield that he bought and is leaving his tribute belonged to Gerald, who was the son of the king Braun, who was the last king of Iceborne. And then Bjorn got those, went to the temple, and went through a bit of a kappa, like a training drill with the sword and shield in the temple, and then put those down, left them for tribute. I think left some incense in the altar of Arakael, with intent to come back and drop off the scales. And then sat in a moment of a quiet prayer and contemplation. And while doing so, had a bit of an out-of-body experience. Sort of felt this slight disconnect from a physical body, opened the eyes, and found himself not in the temple anymore, but like kneeling in like a sand trading pit. As I looked around, confused, and very wondering what the hell he was, saw two figures looming out of this like silvered shadows. This being Barad-dûr and Arakael, who came to having this moment of communion and reflection, basically spoke to Bjorn and kind of called him out. Said that yes, your strength of arms is impressive, and you're doing our work, but you're not using all of our gifts. Maybe we should take them back. And I said, you feel the power begin to get pulled from you. Bjorn basically threw himself upon their mercy and says, "No, I'll do better. Effectively give me another chance." Effectively, it was in the moment, all very ad hoc. It kind of just happened, but it was like, yeah, conversation with the gods going, you could do better, I will do better. Okay. Take this, you've one more chance, take these gifts and go. Because Bjorn's player had spoken to me, and I want to make a few changes, and I said, yeah, okay, we'll figure out how to work it into the story. This is my way of working it into the story. So yeah, Bjorn is, well, the players can probably go nosy if they want, but Bjorn he's a multi-class, and he's tweaked the multi-class because he wanted to. And I said, well, if you want to, I'm not going to stop you. So they did that. He did that, and then we went back to the party. Meanwhile, Duchess Enya, and Achilles went about the town, bought some new general supplies and what have you for the road and for the trip. And I had a bit of a conversation about, how coming to terms with the fact that, she is a duchess and she might be the only one of her family alive and is very confused, and said a prayer and he prayed to her deity. Corlon is an elven deity of music and light, I think it was. Apologies if I get that wrong. Basically, she played to them and asked them for answers on her family. Like, the god came back with the magic 8-ball response of questions unclear, ask again later. So that'll be something to do at another point. And Achilles, the two of them had a nice conversation about, what do you think of your family? What's your plans in the future? And basically, well, we'll survive through this and then we'll get back and deal with it. Then Achilles, at one point, then also went to the temple, still carrying his, previously he had bought 2 very nice new rapiers, a +2 and a +1. Still had his own old rapiers and decided to go and leave them in the temple. Rolled a very good stealth check to get into the temple and leave them as tribute. He snuck into the temple, placed them in the altar without being seen, and snuck out again. So while he was in the temple, did see Bjorn in this prayer stance. Prayer trance, not stance. this meditative prayer trance. And then so snuck into the temple and then snuck back out. And when he was sneaking back out again, heard this voice whisper in his ear, like, "Oh, very good, very good." Which, as I said to him, was like, "No, that's." He's like, "I'm a bit creeped out." And I was like, "You should be a bit creeped out," but you sort of get the sense that was probably our tutor, your god, going, "Oh, nice work." I'm very proud and pleased with that. Reconvened, got their horses, and then made their way out of the town through the lumberyard. And going through the lumberyard, stopped a minute and spoke to the head of the logging operations, a minotaur by the name of Brogmir, Brogmir. Brogmir. Spoke to them, kind of got a bit of a bit more information about the logging operation, and sort of asked for help. And this is unfortunately the only people, the woodsmen, the people that I would send with you. One of them went and hasn't come back yet, probably dead, and the other ones are out looking for other sites. So I would love to send someone with you, but I can't. I also reiterated that it's probably Yeti. Giants, it could be, but I haven't seen giants apart from the ones you guys brought into town. By the way, that's a real good thing for the town. Apart from those giants, I haven't seen them. Could be wolves or Yeti, just be careful. Then left, and 2 full days travel. Dawn on the 3rd day, woke up, and we're like, okay, let's get the game phases on. So woke up, traveled for a bit, and then came across what they were described. Basically, you're going to travel for 2 days through basically a simple mountain valley, and then you're going to find an icy river, like a glacial river that flows down. And then in there, when you get to that river, you're going to start seeing life, and then that's where the logging camp is. So, saw as described, dismounted, and Achilles and Lo went ahead on foot stealthily to try and find anything else. The rest of the party leapfrogging a good bit behind. Achilles and Lo managed to dig damn close to the camp and were able to see, you could see these massive white furred shapes moving between the trees. Like moving ahead, between gaps in the trees, you can see these massive furry shapes moving around a clearing. They're sort of talking in Yeti, which none of the party speak, funnily enough. They're talking away, and you can see they're working and busy and having these discussions back and forth. Lo then decided to sit down and begin to ritual cast comprehend language so he could understand what was being said, and Achilles snuck on ahead into the camp. Did some pretty good stealth, and I rolled really shitty perception. I think I rolled 1s and 2s. Like, okay, yeah, you sneak in. Snuck in, checked, had a little juke around the mostly open clearing. Just Yetis. There's only really 2 buildings. I didn't say this in the session last night, but there would have been tents and stuff that have been flattened or scavenged for parts. But the only 2 buildings were one larger building that kind of looked over, it's peeking through the window. Looks to be like a mess hall or a chow hall type thing. The interior is cold, dark, and no sign of life. Went to the next building, which was an office type affair. where there was, a desk, some desk shelves, filing cabinet, a safe in the corner, and then a couple of like a cot with something on it. Made a perception check, and there's definitely somebody on there. Went to open the window. It was a simple latch. Opened the window, thieves tooled it, opened it up, went inside, and they found one of the people from the mining camp who had been bound and gagged on a cot. They looked a little bit, he'd been through it and wasn't at death's door, but he wasn't in great shape. So I had a conversation, and basically I told Gillies, no, I'm the only survivor. Gillies, right, okay, don't worry, there's more. I'm not the only one. We're here to look after you. Stay here, wait till we come back. And then left. Met up with the party again. Lo finished his ritual cast. So Lo, Achilles, Bjorn, and Enya all met up and talked about how best to go about this. Meanwhile, the Dungeon Master did a very quick job of drawing a very simple combat map, because I didn't know what the party were going to do. I was like, there's a couple of things they could do. They could go here, they could go there. Oh, you're going down this road. Okay, I need to find a chance to get a battle map. And basically got to the stage of, okay, you guys are going to go ahead and go in combat. We'll take a break there. Rapidly draws a map, which was fun. So drew the map, came back, and they sort of snuck around to try and get into like an ambush position, if you will. They rolled decently. Bjorn, Soraya, and Achilles rolled good enough stealth. Again, we're going on passive perception at this point. You've got to the point of, okay, well, they haven't noticed you yet, so there's no active threat. So that happened. And then Lo rolled he's a decent stealth bonus. But rolled really poorly. Rolled below the passive perception of the Yeti. And as I said, it was described as, Achilles turned to Lo and whispered, "How do you want to do this?" And Bjorn and Lo was back, "I call dibs on the big guy." Said it a wee bit too loud, and the Yeti just went, he just whipped around and, oh, there you are. Combat. So we opened things up with Bjorn went first, then the Yetis, regular, then Achilles, then Loki, then the Abominable Yetis, and then Soraya. During all of this, Ariadne and Titus were back with the horses. And I've said that they were back with the horses and also were attacked by wolves. So kind of yes, they're back out of the way, but once combat starts, then they couldn't rush in because wolves. So, trying to narratively make it make sense. So Bjorn rushes in, casts haste on himself, chucks a javelin, and then goes in for 2 strikes with his warhammer. Misses the first. Javelin hits, misses the first warhammer strike, does a big chunk of damage with the second. And then it's the Yetis go, and he is immediately flanked and surrounded, like Yetis in force, all 4 sides of him. Well, initially it was Yetis on 2 sides, and another Yeti then dashed around and came around and sort of boxed him in completely. So I was like, oh, that looks good. Thankfully, he had haste and shield, so his AC was 28. So, shy of a natural 20, ain't nothing was going to get through that. Well, I say nothing. I think I did manage to break it at one point, but it is what it is. So that was that. A lot of the Yetis, because of the surprise round, spent their first turn getting into position, flanking people and boxing them in. That was basically their turn. One of the Yetis was close enough to Achilles and Lo that it was able to use its chilling gaze. Now, if any of you out there have played as a DM, have used Yetis or have come against Yetis, you know that's a fun ability. It's like every Yeti can do a chilling gaze. It's a long enough save, but if you fail, you're paralyzed and you take damage. And unfortunately, Achilles failed. He's a rogue, con isn't his thing, so his saves weren't great. I did actually feel bad for him because I think we got 3 rounds, maybe 3 or 4 rounds. We did 3. Was it paralyzed? Yeah, I think we were just at the end of it. We got into the 4th round of combat. So he had the initial save, which failed, and then 2 additional rounds where he failed. I felt really bad for him, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. So Yetis all rushed in. He was paralyzed, got a couple of attacks on him. Again, if you're paralyzed, a hit is a crit, and I just hit him once. Didn't roll great, thankfully, but hit him once and did crit damage. And then Lo managed one of the Yetis that rushed forward. Lo basically just gutted it in like 2 attacks. Just nerfed it, as Low does. Floored one of them and held back. Didn't want to charge forward and, you know, leave his paralyzed friend to the mercy of the Yeti. And then after that, it was the Abominable Yetis' turns. Again, both of them tried to use their Chilling Gaze. Sorry, one of them used their Chilling Gaze on Bjorn, who succeeded. He is a ridiculous con modifier. I think it's +9. He just about made it. He rolled an 18 and the DC was 18. So yeah, that saved his ass. Like, yeah, you're boxed in on all four sides by Yeti and you're about to be paralyzed. That's like, yeah, I hope you've got a backup character situation. But he succeeded. Really badass moment. And then the other Abominable Yeti turned and used his Cold Breath on Low because he was like, too far away. It's like, no, I'm going to hang back here and this is my big moment. And you know, blasted him. And he failed his save. So took full damage. Which is fun. And then we had Soraya, who Soraya then, in cover, used a Flame Strike on the Abominable Yeti. I think it failed the save. It did a chunk of damage, and the party then learned, oh, Yetis are afraid of fire. So that was Soraya's turn. Flame Strike and moved out of the way, which got the attention of a couple of Yeti. And then back to Bjorn's turn, who, while hasted, okay, I'm going to disengage. There was a lot of things that he did. It was like, okay, I'm doing a disengage, moved out of the way, got into position, and used his Conquering Presence, which his Conquering Presence is his channel divinity for his Oath of Conquest Paladin. But I've got a little homebrew thing that I've added on to that because when he slew Urasil back in Steelborough, he got the killing blow. I've tweaked things a little bit since that. Effectively, since Fizzbands came out, the Death of the Dragons thing is, I've started to use that. I used it because that's really interesting. So Bjorn now has like part of the essence of Urasil. He has literal scars from the fight, and those scars have a lingering effect. The lingering effect being that he's now really fucking intimidating in combat. It's a much higher DC, and managed to frighten every single fucking Yeti within 30 feet of him. Which was, I believe, all but one. Yeah, only one? No, because one was dead. One of them was dead, and the Abominable Yeti, the other one was out of range. Frightened every single last fucking one of them, which was ridiculous. And then once they were all frightened, went ahead and then was able to use Quicken Spell and Fireball the Yetis he just got away from. Didn't kill any of them, but again, fire damage. Which is really, it was like a moment of like, okay, this is going to go sideways. Oh no, shit, one's dead. We've already got Fireball. These are now frightened. That sort of turned the tide. And then after Bjorn, the Yetis went, who were all frightened at this point. Two of them fucked off and went to go after Enya. Because they couldn't go after Bjorn. They couldn't go after any of the party members. They had seen Enya. And they turned around, saw her, and went, well, there's a target, and had to dash over to, knock the mic, had to dash across to get into combat, but they dashed, so that was their action, couldn't do anything else. And the other ones, the ones that were near Achilles tried to go after him. One went after Achilles, one went after Low, didn't really do it. I think one of them did hit Achilles still, you know, with the whole paralyzed thing. Paralyzed and fear, cancelled out, straight roll, did manage to hit one. So he did take a bit more damage. And then, again, failed his save, unfortunately, still paralyzed. And Low then says, fuck it, and ran up to the big guy. And with 2 strikes, did, I believe it was 87 points of damage. I mean, fuck. Just Paladin smites go brrr. Just boom, 87 points of damage. And I was like, oh, is he dead? And I was like, he's not dead, but he's bloodied as fuck. You basically ran up and just shivved him. Just, which hurt. Got his attention. And the Abominable Yetis, again, the one that was at Bjorn couldn't get closer to Bjorn, but wanted to kill him, so he used his breath. Bjorn saved and took half damage for it. But that's about all that Yeti can just sit and blast the cold breath if it recharges. Otherwise, the Abominable Yeti's got none. It can't get to Bjorn. It can't go around him. It can get around him and maybe, I don't know. I'm looking at the map right now, deciding what it can do. it's interesting. It's fun to see. But that's that. The other Abominable Yeti facing off Low. Again, it then tried to Chilling Gaze Low, who succeeded, thankfully. Well, it says Low then succeeded and then used the attacks. And I think it did hit him once, at least once. You know, again, the party's a bit bloodied looking at this point. And then Soraya managed to break away from the two Yetis that had flanked her. Ran out into the open and cast Healing Word at Bjorn, who had taken a bit of damage at this point. Not a huge... No one's like at death's door, apart from one of the Yetis. But yeah, went out, did a bit of healing. And then Bjorn tripped up the big Yeti, did a good chunk of damage, and then tried to get a finishing blow and just didn't roll high enough on the damage. Did a good bit of damage, but not quite enough to finish it. But that's where we ended things. I wanted to give Bjorn a chance to try to you because he's okay. Is that yet? I'm going, there's a chance Bjorn could get him, like knocking him prone, and then jumped on him, and there was a real chance he could have killed him, and I didn't want to deny him that chance. Unfortunately, it didn't work. So we hit pause on the combat. I've got the battle map sitting, you know, with pictures saved, ready to go again. So we're going to pick up there next time in the middle of combat with the Yetis about to go. So as it stands, Bjorn is on top of an Abominable Yeti that is prone and frightened of him. Achilles is still paralyzed, facing down two Yeti. And Low is facing off an Abominable Yeti, and Soraya is trying to get into the fray as well. So we'll see what happens in the next session. But it's been really fun. Last night was really fun to do for me. The combat was fun, nice bit of roleplay. And I'm looking forward to seeing how the Yeti fight ends. But yeah, really enjoying it. It was really fun. And I'm going to report back here in a couple of weeks with how it goes. So, until then, adventurers, keep safe, take it handy, and see ya.